Good evening, everyone. My name is Evelyn. I'm the Assistant Public Information Director for the Long Beach Unified School District. And I just want to welcome you to tonight's community meeting where we are sharing information on the Aquatic Center coming to Wilson High School. I am going to start with team introductions, or just introducing the team members that have joined us here tonight. But before I do, I want to point out that if you are watching us live on YouTube, just below the video player, there is a form where you can submit questions that we will answer. So then let me start now with introductions of the team that's here. I'll start with David Miranda, who is our Executive Director of Facilities Planning and Development.
Hello.
Tracy Nishihira, our Interim Planning Administrator.
Good evening.
Ferdos Fazeli, our Planning Manager, who is also the project lead at Wilson.
Good evening, everyone.
We have with us as well Lisa Ulmer, who is the district's Physical Education Coordinator, as well as the Secretary for the Moore League. Sean Abbott, our former Measure E liaison, who is not in that role anymore, has moved on to other exciting things in the district, but we're glad that she's here today.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
We also have, of course, Wilson's Assistant Principal, Mr. Guillermo Jimenez.
Hello, everybody.
And we've invited as well our colleagues at the architectural firm PBK Architecture. These are our partners who helped us design Wilson's Aquatic Center. We have Juan Cervera.
Good evening.
And we also have Gilbert Baez.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for introducing yourselves, everybody. And so with that, I'm going to hand it to David Miranda.
Thank you so much, Evelyn, for the introductions. And again, thank you to everybody for being in attendance and for expressing interest in this project. We're very excited about this project, just the way we get excited about every one of our major capital improvement projects in the district. Our goals for this evening are to share information with respect to the project. We'll dive into some specifics with respect to inclusive facilities. Primarily what we want to do, though, is of course educate and be here to answer your questions. So our goal is going to be to get through our slide deck, provide the necessary information and relevant information for your, really for your background information purposes. And then we'll jump into a Q&A session at the tail end here, which Evelyn will help us moderate. We're going to look to get to as many questions as we can this evening. However, in the interest of time and really to get you back to your families, at some point we will stop. That does not mean we'll stop from answering your questions, right? So, you know, whether it's in writing or via phone calls, keep submitting your questions to us because we're going to get to every one of them, even if it's outside of this meeting forum. So a little bit of background information just before we dive right in. Several projects, right? So we have a large scale building program that we oversee here as part of the Facilities Development and Planning branch for Long Beach Unified. We work on modernization projects, new construction projects, athletic-based projects such as this one as well, and really have a great team in terms of our in-house facility program managers and project managers to quarterback and deliver these incredible facilities. It's customary for us to set up community-based meetings such as this one, just at the outset of the projects, right? So shortly before we're about to start construction, we get in front of the community just as we're doing this evening to share relevant information, to answer your questions. And in several cases, in many cases, we'll hear certain pieces of information that allow us to make little adjustments every now and then as well, right? So in every one of those cases, we encourage our public to ask questions during the meeting. We also encourage you to reach out to us outside of the meeting forum again with several questions. We often find sometimes that question will arise or just kind of come to fruition a day later or a week later, and that's perfectly okay. That's really what we're here to do, to answer every one of your questions. Now with this project, of course, we have a new aquatic center. I won't touch or dive too deeply into the project scope because for those who's our project manager assigned to this actual project at Wilson, we'll dive into some of the details as we go later into the presentation. And believe me, my words will not do it justice, right? Because the renderings, the project images, the floor plans, they'll really paint the better picture of what this project's going to look like when all is said and done. I will tease the fact that the images, the renderings, the aerial views, they will also depict some of the site constraints, some of the challenges we have on this unique project as well. So just to kind of put that out there before we jump in. In terms of our project schedule, these projects that we work on the school facility side of the house, really across the state, they take several years to come to fruition. So we engage in the services of an architect, which in this case is PBK, who Evelyn introduced. We start design work, we hire engineers and a number of different consultants who work on these very facilities to ensure that we're meeting code compliance, that we're providing safe facilities, that they're structurally sound, you name it. There's just a number of things we need to do and a number of hoops we need to jump through before we officially break ground and have shovels in the ground for these projects. That said, we're at what we would call the next stage, which is the state agency approval stage. Every one of these projects gets submitted to the state architect's office for final approval and sign off. At which point, once we secure these sign-offs, we're able to enter a bidding phase. So every one of these projects is also compliant with the public contract code in terms of how we select contractors and subcontractors before shovels are in the ground. Now, of course, the exciting part, construction. And for this particular project, you see the schedule listed on the screen there. We're looking at breaking ground this coming summer and looking at finishing construction in time for an opening the following fall, so fall of 2023. Now, of course, diving into the inclusive facilities aspect of this project, really just wanted to dive into this part at the front end of this presentation before we share images and renderings again. I think it's important just to get folks bearings and get folks situated with respect to where we are. What are inclusive facilities, first and foremost? And really, just as the name implies, they're facilities that are inclusive for all. So these are facilities meant and geared towards serving every student, anybody with disabilities or no disabilities, anybody who desires privacy of any sort. And of course, anybody, any student who identifies with a specific gender or doesn't identify with a specific gender or identity would have access to these facilities. You see a couple images pictured here. These are merely for reference. These are not Long Beach Unified images, but they do kind of help in the context of things, just in terms of communal spaces, spaces that are universal, large partitions for privacy, and we'll dig deeper into that as we go further into the presentation. I should have noted as part of that slide, I'll do so now. We are starting to see more and more inclusive facilities, be it restrooms, locker rooms, all up and down the state and across the country for that matter. So in some cases, we see it in the private sector. In several cases, we're seeing it in the public sector. The California Department of Education is actually holding stakeholder engagement sessions just to get more dialogue and attempt to develop design guidelines for school districts such as ours. Really with privacy and safety being at the forefront of every one of those discussions as well. So why inclusive facilities at Long Beach Unified? Several of you, I'm sure, have lived in the Long Beach community for several years. Some of you could be a little newer to Long Beach, but really, even if you've been here for a short time, you've likely heard us and our district speak to equity and inclusivity as core values for the district. This facility and this particular design for inclusive facilities at Wilson High School really hits the mark on both of those values, equity and inclusion. We've heard not via voice, but via written messages and email correspondence and other correspondence, questions posed with respect to the LGBTQ community and whether this particular project or these projects are solely in response to the LGBTQ community. What I would tell you with absolute confidence is it's no. It's not solely for that purpose or that particular group, but they are a part of, right? They are one voice. We did hear from those folks. We brought them to the table. We engaged in dialogue with the LGBTQ Center in Long Beach, as well as a number of other stakeholders throughout our community, just in the development of this concept. You see pictured here an individual in a wheelchair. So we know this is also an important aspect of every one of our facilities because there are in fact public facilities, right? So just as I need to provide access to and from an office building or a multi-purpose building, and the state architect who I referenced also looks at accessibility compliance in addition to building codes and structural safety, we need to make sure that folks with disabilities, whether they be temporary or permanent in nature, have access to every one of these spaces. What we know in Long Beach is that in many cases, our students with disabilities or special needs require the assistance of a caregiver. In several cases, that could be a caregiver of a different gender. So us having facilities that are more inclusive in nature also help in that respect. And of course, student interest. Again, if you follow Long Beach Unified, if you're part of our district, you know, student voice is at the forefront of quite a bit of what we do. So our students regularly attend our board meetings. They sit in on various committees. They're very actively engaged in their educational environment and academic environment in the district. And this was no different. So students were at the forefront. They really echoed and voiced their desire for the addition of inclusive facilities, in particular at the secondary schools. So in part, this was also coming to fruition based on student interest. Focus groups. So with respect to the Wilson Aquatic Center, which again is just a massive project, it's a large capital improvement endeavor, and I don't want to take for those thunder, I'll let her describe that. Yet in the development of that design, we had a focus group, a planning committee, where we brought forth various stakeholders to help us develop the actual scope of work for this particular project. We did so, and this expanded well beyond Wilson, because the ultimate goal for this project is for us to develop a basis of design or a core scope of work that we could then repeat at the other comprehensive high schools. Our high schools, with the exception of Cabrillo, have current swimming pools within an interior natatorium space. That's a very dated facility, and they're also undersized facilities. So what we're looking at doing here is developing a larger pool, making that an exterior structure or component, and then repurposing the natatorium spaces. We also invited stakeholders, whether that be coaches or athletic directors or administrators or PE teachers from those other various high schools, comprehensive high schools in the district. Again, because the core scope of work would primarily remain the same as we jump into Lakewood High School and Milliken High School and Jordan and Pauley and so forth. So we did just that. We had a number of folks chime in with respect to the depth of the pool, how many lanes, just what the pool deck looks like, as well as these interior components as well. As we were in that planning stage and developing the design, that's when we really made the determination to go with inclusive facilities with respect to restrooms and locker rooms at this secondary site. And what Sean Abbott actually helped us do, and Firdaus did as well, was develop a student focus group. So again, with student voice at the forefront and us bringing them to the table, developing an actual student group comprised of a number of different folks. So different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different socioeconomic backgrounds, some athletes, some non-athletes, and of course also including the LGBTQ Center in Long Beach. The overriding goal with the formation of that committee was posing a few questions. One, what works right now? So with respect to restrooms and locker rooms on current Long Beach high schools, what are the pros and cons? What works, what works well, what doesn't work, and where do we absolutely need to focus some extra energies on? Of course, the follow-up question became, what can inclusive facilities look like? As we engage with these design services with PBK architects and other architects in the district as well, what are some of these design components and parameters that we should factor in and in fact include in our design? And there was a number of elements that started really coming to fruition and common themes that really started developing. Here you see 5 such findings or core concepts and feedback elements that we heard from that particular group. Of course, the first one being, you know, the need for more supervision, the need to try and decrease some of the unfortunate incidences that tend to happen in some of these spaces currently. There tends to be bullying on occasion. There tends to be inappropriate behavior. Often I describe it as some of these spaces just because of older designs, in some cases poor designs, they come with a number of different nooks and crannies, right? So that's often where kids or inappropriate actions start to happen, right? So that definitely came out as part of this focus group as a primary finding. The other finding is with respect to single occupancy restrooms currently in the district. Back in 2016, there was actually legislation in California that called for every single occupancy restroom to be converted to a gender neutral restroom. So there was signage that was changed. There was many benefits that came about as a result of that legislation. There was also a few hiccups and some issues that indirectly came about also. So, you know, the fact that there was now a single occupancy restroom dedicated as a gender neutral space was a plus. So it was heading in the right direction really for the state and for our schools within the state. What happened in many cases, and this has happened in several cases in Long Beach, is that single occupancy restroom is often in the front office or in the nurse's station. You know, in many cases, clear across to the other end of the campus, so really at a far extreme. So again, not convenient, not accessible, not within close proximity to another classroom building or another athletic facility. And we know our passing periods are already relatively short as students traverse from one building to another, one class to another. The other piece that happened as a result is in many cases, these students were seen in line or seen going to this particular line and indirectly being outed, right? So they weren't ready to have that conversation perhaps with respect to expression and identity, yet in many cases they were forced to have that conversation solely because they were identified at going to this particular space. So again, really just circling back to that last bullet point, which focuses primarily on convenience, accessibility, should have really highlighted and emphasized for all students. And you see it here. I almost teed it up for myself. So here you see it highlighted and emphasized, right? And just in big and bold, because this was the primary statement that came about, primary finding, I should say, from this student group. Students desire privacy and safety, regardless of gender identity or physical ability. Privacy and safety being at the forefront of every one of these comments, every one of these findings. The student group and a number of others have actually echoed and used as an example changing rooms or fitting rooms within department stores. And that's a good one just in terms of starting that frame of thought. Yes, this is different in terms of it being a locker facility, but from a privacy perspective, from an inclusive aspect, it definitely checks those boxes. Students definitely echoed over and over just them being uncomfortable in these locker room spaces and restroom spaces to date, right? And often when we've polled the crowd, when we meet with folks in person, the overwhelming majority of folks would say they were uncomfortable changing into PE clothes or other clothes at the middle school stage or high school age of their careers. And things are just different at this point in age, and society has changed as well, right? So again, just echoing some of the primary findings that we found from this focus group. And digging deeper into the privacy and safety aspect, we did start engaging in additional dialogue, bringing the architects into the room, bringing the engineers into the room, just to determine what we could do about these particular things. Really what we determined, and this is going to take us back to one of the first images that we shared, is having these larger partitions. So going as far down to the floor as we can, we determined that was 1 inch, and then going a little higher up than we typically do in terms of the length of these partitions. And we're opting for 8 feet in this particular case. These doors, there's technology and advancements and certain equipment out there now, which we're very fortunate to have, because we're able to order doors that are programmed to remain slightly open when they're not in use. So it would be crystal clear if a space is occupied or not occupied. Further, there's occupancy indicators. So several of us, I'm sure, have been to restrooms in particular, where it's a private space, but it's very clear to know if that space is occupied or not. And that's what we're opting for here as well. There's been questions with respect to the gaps that we often find in public and private spaces, just with restroom spaces in particular. And what we're doing here is creating no sight lines, right? So no temptation for somebody to peek into a particular changing stall. They're gap free. So we've eliminated that space kind of between partitions and between doorways. The other unique aspect, and this one's another one that Firdaus can better paint the picture of with the renderings that we're going to share, but the addition of waist-high lockers. So we know I actually described the nooks and crannies that often reside within some of our older spaces, in particular locker spaces. but us going just lower in height to waist-high lockers also allows for us to have a cleaner line of sight. So as teachers and PE coaches and other adults are supervising these spaces, they have a clear line of sight from one end of the facility to the other, definitely more so than we have in current day with our traditional spaces. At this point, I will turn it over to Firdaus.
Thank you, David. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining this meeting. I'm very excited to present the Aquatic Center that we have designed for our Wilson High School. And we'll share with you the details. Here in this slide, we have shared the main buildings spaces for the project. It has a 51.5 meter by 25-yard immersive pool, and the associated buildings that are locker room, changing stalls. We have a shared office for our coaching and PE staff. We have one pool attendant office, 2 team rooms, restrooms, indoor and outdoor showers, concession and tickets, bleachers that has a capacity of 500 spectators. It's covered by a shaded structure. We're going to have 4 stadium lights, scoreboard, and accessory spaces for the buildings include custodial room, storage rooms, pool equipment room, and also our pool is surrounded by 30-foot wide pool deck. Next slide, please. Here are some additional project scope. We do some rehabilitation improvement along the Zimino Avenue, starting at the corner of the 7th Street, going north to in front of the auditorium building. We're adding new parking lots that has 22 parking slots, and two of the 22 spots are ADA spaces. The office and the team rooms of the project include air conditioning system. The 2 team rooms they also include a modern technology for flat screen TVs, speakers for presentations, and also the 2 team rooms can be converted into a PE classroom that includes marker board, tack boards, and so on. We also have in this project included the fire alarm upgrades for the seaside portables. So the fire alarm will be upgraded to the newest code with voice evacuation. And also we have accessibility upgrades throughout the project site. Next slide, please. This slide shows the overall site plan. The pool project area is marked with that red arrow that you see on the screen. It's to the project site located to the west of the Zimino Avenue. To the north of the project site are the tennis courts, and to the south are the seaside portables. So the project site currently has the basketball, volleyball courts that we're taking over to add the pool and the buildings. So next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows a perspective 3D view of the locker room building. And we have marked the rooms on the floor plan. I'm going to start going through and hovering over the room so for you to can see them better. The pool deck is located in this view to the bottom of the 3D view that you see. And the locker room building is accessible through the 2 doors that are to the side of the laundry and custodial office. in between these two doors, you see an office that the coaching and PE staff can use. It has a capacity of 4 working stations. To the right of it is laundry space. And to the left of it, the coaching staff have their own restroom and shower area. And also going further left is a custodial room designed for the space. And further left, there is an office for the pool attendant. And this office also has its own restroom and shower area. Moving up further up, there are showers located to the side of above the laundry and the custodial space. We have 10 shower spaces, stalls, and moving along to the bottom right corner of the slide, there are the inclusive restrooms. They are accessible via the pool deck. So that's the door you see. They can access through this pool deck, and there are 9 restroom stalls in this area. There is also a door that goes into the locker room area from this restroom. I need to emphasize that this door will be only used when there are no spectators on the facility during the time that the PE is having classes or the students and coaches are on staff. And this door will be locked when we have spectators outside. So there is no access when there's somebody, spectator, member of the public goes from the pool deck to the restroom. They cannot follow to get into the locker space. So to the above the inclusive restrooms, there are 2 team rooms, and these team rooms are separated by an operable wall that can be opened up and to be used, to be converted into a PE classroom. And as I explained, these team rooms have modern technology, flat screen TV, speakers, marker board, tag board, and cabinetries for displaying the awards. So these are the team rooms. And then what you see in the center area, they are individual. Okay, those are the lockers. They are designed to be waist height, so do not obstruct the view of throughout the whole common area of the locker space. So as you see from the coaching and PE office, that we have designed full visual and line of sight through the whole area. So, and these lockers do not block the line of sight. And also the individual changing stalls are shown with gray and green stalls, spaces. These are all individual changing stalls. As David explained, there is no gap between the doors and the partitions. Nobody can peek through via those gaps. They come with special hinges that are spring loaded, and we can program them to stay open when the stall is not in use. So during the supervision, it makes it easier by just looking through to see which doors are closed or opened. So those are that closed, they have occupants in them. And in addition to that, we also have occupancy indicators for each stall. Okay, each stall, I also wanted to add that each stall includes a bench and to be used for changing, and the common areas, we purposely did not add benches to the common areas because this common area of the locker room only be used for students to get their belongings from the lockers, and all the changing happens inside the changing stalls. Next slide, please. Here are a couple of perspectives that we are showing from the coach PE office through looking into the locker space. So in this slide, you see better how private these changing stalls are. The gap from the floor to the bottom of the door and partitions are 1 inch as David explained, and also the partition or from the floor to the top of the door is 8 foot tall. Next slide, please. In this slide, we are showing the whole project area, including the parking areas that are alongside of the Zimino Avenue. We have 20 parking spaces, and there is a one-way coming in and going out. We have a 51.5 meter by 25 yard pool. It's a immersive pool. It has a bulkhead that is shown in yellow. The bulkhead moves on track, and it's a nice feature, a very nice feature that separates the pool into when there are professional competitions going on, or it can move to one side to create the 50-meter cross course for swimming. We have a nice, large 30-foot wide pool deck surrounding the pool. And to the south, there are 4 shower posts. Let me see if I can. Yes, those are our shower posts, exterior, and each shower post has 4 shower heads, with the exception of one of them that have 2 heads, and that was because of the ADA requirements. So outside, in total, we have 14 shower heads. To the east, we have our bleacher area that has 500 spectator capacity, and it has a shade structure over it to provide shade. The pool area is surrounded by 10-foot tall CMU walls for safety and privacy. And we have 4 stadium lights at 4 corners of the pool deck. And the north, where you see the mouse right now, is where your scoreboard is located. And the pool project comes with a sound system. Going into more details, the green triangles that you see on the screen that we have highlighted, those are our security cameras that we are pointing into the parking area. We take entrances to the facility, who comes in, who goes out, entrances to the locker room, and the pool area, bleachers, and so on. We also show with the dash lines the circulation in and out of the building. The red triangles show the accessible building entrances, and the blue shaded area to the south is where to the south of the building. Yes, that's where the all-gender restroom is, and the orange areas are where the staff restroom and shower areas are. And we also, in addition to the all-gender restroom facility that we pointed to, the pink areas within the ticket concession building, we have 2 single-stall restroom, single-occupant, all-gender restroom, again, that can be used by spectators, by member of the public, and they are accessible via the pool deck. So next slide, please. All right, so you saw this building earlier on in the 3D form. We thought it's good to have the floor plan with more details showing the area for each space and to see the line of sight. In the 3D version, it was not easy to see how the line of sight is throughout the common areas of the building. So here you can see it better. And each, some more details, each of these clean rooms are 600 square foot, and when we open the wall, we have a 1,200 square foot PE classroom that is per educational specification. And the shower rooms that are shown on below the laundry and the custodial space, these are around 3'5" wide by 5 foot, a little over 5 foot deep, and they're roomy. Students can shower, change in these stalls, and there is no need for them to come when they shower to come and go to changing stalls. Changing and showering happens within the same stall, and also the changing stalls themselves are typically around 3 foot wide. In addition, we have the ADA stalls that are large enough to provide for a wheelchair access in these spaces. And we have also designed a couple of these spaces to fit a medical size table for our students with a special needs, and also in case it's needed for other students that if they need to lie down or get some attention, they can use these larger spaces that have the medical size bench in them. And this space particularly, we designed this space in close collaboration with our high school office, with school support services, with maintenance office, business services. Facilities were closely part of the project. In addition to, when David explained, we took comments from the select coach and PE staff members from Wilson. And these numbers that we came up is what we've been told it's going to work for the project. And with the area that we have, if you, Evelyn, go to the previous slide that shows the site plan. I forgot to mention the previous one. If you go to the site plan slide number 15, yes. In this one, we are bound by this area. To the north, we had tennis court, or we have tennis courts that we were not going to lose them. And to the south, we had the portable buildings that they're going to stay. We were not going to remove them. So within the constraints of the project area, we used every inch of this space to provide the program that we have been given. And we came up with this number with close collaboration with the select coaches that were part of our focus group. All right, so next slide, please. And this building is the second building that is on site and has the ticket booth, the concession, and it has the electrical room, the AV room, the 2 single occupant, gender neutral restrooms, the mechanical room for the pool equipment and the chemical storage areas. Next slide, please. All right, we're gonna dive into our pool presentation. You can move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, for the Wilson project, we selected to go with Mercer pools. You see on the screen to the left, the bottom picture shows the 2021 U.S. Olympic swimming trials. That was in Omaha, Mercer pool, and more locally, the Weisburn School District Aquatic Center, the top picture that you see. The Mercer pool are aquatic world's #1 choice, the best out there, and many of the competition, including the Olympic Games, select to go with Mercer pools. Next slide, please. And here in this slide, I don't want to go into detail of all the bullet points. You can see it on the screen, but Mercer pools are modular. They are stainless steel. They get bolted together. They do not use any welding. And then on top of the stainless steel, they add a fiberglass PVC membrane that is soft, is UV, algae, and chemical resistant. It's very durable, easy to clean, pleasant to touch, and it is a smooth but not slippery. And then you can add finishes to the pools like ceramics and mosaic tiles and so on. It's a very nice pool. Next slide, please. So here are some geometry of the pool that was designed by our pool consultant, Councilman Hans Baker, who are the aquatic experts. They are very well known in the field, and they work very closely with Mercer. So our pool, as we spoke, is 51.5 meters, equal 169 feet. There is a 1.5 meter bulkhead that is on track and moves. The width of the pool is 25 yards or 75 foot. The deep end is 7 foot and the shallow end is 4 feet deep. The pool has the capacity to fit 639 persons. And for the long course swimming, there are 8 long course lanes and each one is 9 foot wide. For design of this pool, we not only took comments and collaborated with Wilson focus group, we also included members of the coaching PE staff from Poly High School, Cabrillo High School, Millikan High School, Jordan High School, and Lakewood High School. I think I did not mention, although you see on the screen, that there are 20 cross course lanes. Each one is 7 foot 6 inches wide. Next slide, please. Here in this slide, you see more detail, the shallow end in detail. The shallow end runs the entire width of the pool, and it goes 25 feet long, flat, and then it has a slight slope from 25 foot for a 5 foot run before it starts getting deeper. By code, we could not go with a slope that is too much. We had to slightly slope it first for 5 feet and then go to for a length of 7 foot 6 inches to reach to our 7 foot deep end. Next slide, please. And here also you see the 8 lanes for the with the starting blocks, and each one is 9 foot. The space between each one is 9 foot. And you see that the depth of this deep end is 7 foot deep. Next slide, please. And for ADA accessibility, we were required to have two means of access. One is provided by a battery-powered ADA lift that is capable of lifting 400 pounds. And the secondary means of access is the ADA-spaced handrails on the stairs. Next slide, please. All right, and here are some construction logistics. The construction is going to start, it's going to be from 7 a.m. and go through 4:30 p.m. Weekdays, we are going to have full-time construction management staff on site along with district supervision. They are going to monitor the construction traffic. They're going to make sure that fencing are separating the construction area from the school community, to make sure the area is kept clean, free of debris and dust. And they're going to provide continuous safety training for the construction personnel. And the last item you see is some of the equipment that you may see in the project site: trucks, backhoes, cranes, and various equipment and machines. And I think that was no, actually here, project team, sorry. So we have our architects on here with us, PBK Architect. They have been working with us with numerous projects in Measure E, very familiar with our district. They are also have as their consultant T2S, their mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer. And as I mentioned earlier, Councilman Hunsaker is the pool consultant. The project is currently at Division of the State Architect. Is being reviewed for approval. We expect to get the DSA's approval by the end of January 2022. At that point, we're going to bid the project and select the contractor. We don't have the contractor on board yet, and we are looking into to have the contractor on board, approved by our board, by June, hopefully by June 1st, board to hit the ground running and start the construction.
Thank you, Ferdos. Thank you, Ferdos, for that presentation. That does bring us to the end of our presentation and now to the question and answer session. We did ask questions that the community submit questions in advance, and we did receive a number of questions. Many of the questions that we received were around the privacy and safety aspects of the locker room. And we did touch on those features, but I do want to highlight some of those questions that did come in from the community. So starting with the showers and the changing stalls, we have received some questions regarding safety if students are showering in one stall and changing in another stall and potentially being partially undressed in the locker room. And I'm going to pose these safety questions to you, Ferdos, as our project lead. Can you speak to the shower and changing stalls? Are students showering and changing in two separate stalls?
No, absolutely not. Students can shower and change in the same stall, although we have the outdoor shower heads for rinsing, but when they come to actual showering, not rinsing, they do shower in the 10 shower stalls that we have provided, and they do change in the same stall. We have benches, one bench in each stall, and also storage areas for their belongings when they get those from the lockers, their lockers, and get into these shower stalls. They do not need to come out before they have changed.
Thank you. Question as well on aquatic event spectators' access into the locker rooms. Ferdos, can you discuss the visitors' access to the restrooms and the locker rooms?
Okay, the visitors do not have access to the locker room, similar to how it is right now in our current locker room condition. So accessing to the restroom is provided for the spectators through the roof deck. And when they get into the restroom, there are two single occupant restrooms that just they cannot go anywhere from there. And also in the all gender restroom area, when there are events going on, when there are spectators within the project area, they cannot get into the locker space because the door will be locked. The door that is there separating the locker and the restroom is going to be used only during the time that the students and the staff are on site.
Thank you. Question regarding the window that's from the pool deck into the locker room. If you could clarify why there is a window there.
From there is an office, and then we have a window from that office looking into the pool deck. That window is needed for security and supervision of the students who are using the pool. And we also have provided full visibility from that office into the locker area. Again, I want to emphasize, nobody is changing in this locker area. Everybody that is in this locker area are the same students with the same attire that they have been outside on the pool deck. So we wanted it to make sure there is enough supervision and transparency from this office looking into the locker area, plus looking outside. And also transparency was our number one, I wouldn't say number one of the most important features of this locker space. We wanted it to make sure this locker area, the common area that I emphasize, nobody is changing in this area, is transparent. Everybody can look into there. Coaches, if you are looking into on the deck and you can see inside that locker space, fine, it's transparent. It actually gives a sense to students that are in there, they're gonna be watched, they're gonna be supervised. And that was the reason we had these windows.
Thank you. We have received questions regarding female swimmers who need help putting on racing suits. So how will female swimmers dress now if the stalls are intended for one person?
So the stalls are large enough. The stalls are 3 foot by 5 foot, the typical stalls. And we also have larger stalls that within the area of the locker room that can fit 2 students in there if needed, and if desired, 2 students can go there. And we also have ADA stalls that are large enough for 2 students to use those stalls as well for changing if we need to have more than 1 person in those stalls.
Thank you, Ferdos. And this is a question that I will pose to Lisa Ulmer, who's joined us tonight. Again, she's the district's physical education coordinator, as well as the secretary for the Moore League. Many have asked about the new locker room and how the locker room will accommodate a large number of swimmers that descend on the locker rooms during dual swim meets. Lisa, can you help us understand really the average number of student athletes that attend dual swim meets, how often these types of events occur, and how Wilson's new locker can accommodate these students?
Hi, hello everybody. From what I understand, I've done a little bit of data gathering. Obviously, everyone here on this meeting understands that Wilson has a storied aquatics program, excellence in water polo and in swimming, both girls and boys. In a typical year, you will have approximately 65 male and 65 female swimmers. So that's a total of 130 swimmers just from the one school. If they are swimming in a dual meet against another large program, let's say in our league, that would be possibly Poly High School, you may have 250 students at a swim meet in that particular day. And this is going on right now, even with the facilities we currently have. It's a struggle, and we recognize that, but I want to make sure everyone understands that all 250 students are not in the changing area at the same time. So for an example, if let's say Polly is coming to Wilson to compete, there's travel time from Polly to get to Wilson. So while Polly is traveling, I would assume that Wilson is having their swimmers getting ready, getting changed before Polly even arrives. So when Polly arrives, Wilson's kids are already on the pool deck. They're already engaged in warming up. That part is happening. Polly will arrive, and a majority of those kids will need to change. So we have 54 privacy stalls plus 4 ADA stalls. So we have 58 stalls where these 65, 70 kids will come into the locker room and prepare for their meet. So yes, is there going to be a delay? Can every kid be in a changing stall at the same time if there's 65 students and there's only 58 changing stalls? Obviously not. There's going to be a little bit of a time delay there. But I think that once kids get used to that process, it'll go a lot quicker. There's going to be something that everyone will have to adjust to. So in terms of having 250 or 300 students in the locker and in that locker room in one time, I don't foresee that happening. It's staggered throughout a meet. Not everybody swims at the same time. They do go through warm-ups. And then depending on when the kid actually races, they may go into the locker room to change into their tech suit. That was one of the questions was about. It's my understanding tech suits are not used at every meet. They are used for high reward meets like Moore League finals, like maybe a CIF or maybe a really important invitational. Not every girl wears them, but the ones that do, from what I understand, they're not worn at every single meet or practice. It's something that's used sparingly. So that's my understanding with that. Did I answer that question okay, Evelyn?
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, very helpful. We have questions now regarding the locker room's compliance with building code. And this is a question that I will ask our colleagues at PBK Architecture to answer for us. So Gilbert or Juan, can you speak to how Wilson's locker room complies with California building code in terms of privacy and the number of restrooms, changing stalls, and showers available?
Hi, thanks, Evelyn. So my understanding of the code is that there currently is no requirements as far as privacy goes. The code tends to be a little behind on issues like these. However, there is a general guideline for plumbing fixtures, meaning toilets, showers. And there's a specific code, chapter 31B, that deals specifically with pools. And it gives you guidelines saying for every square foot of a pool, you provide certain number of toilets. And so we use that guideline to size our restrooms and provide the number of fixtures for all toilets, showers, urinals. In this case, we're going to have the urinals. And then from there, it's a simple percentage as far as getting the accessibility, number of accessibility stalls, which is what DSA really looks into. So there's no code requirements, but there are guidelines that we follow.
Thank you. We have a number of inquiries regarding the stakeholder input and the different stakeholders that we really engage in this process. And I'm going to ask Sean Abbott if you could speak to what you heard when you were facilitating our focus groups, and your focus was on the students. And I know David touched on some of this, but because there is interest, if you could highlight some of that.
Sure, absolutely, Evelyn. Thank you. I met with over 60 students from 4 comprehensive high school sites that were undergoing construction in the future or who already had all gender facilities. We worked with a diverse group of students. I contacted activity specialists, and so we had a wide range of students, everyone from ASB students to athletes to students from the LGBTQ community, male, female, as well as Black, Hispanic, white, and from various ethnic groups to be represented in the room. And what we did with the students is we really went through just a process of talking about what is the current state of locker rooms and restrooms in Long Beach Unified. And so what the students talked about was right now they felt that they were not necessarily the safest places, and that they had problems with bullying. I think Mr. Miranda mentioned that earlier, that they found them uncomfortable regardless. And that came from a wide range of students, that private changing is not something that students are comfortable with anymore. They talked a lot about body image, more than gender identity. Students talked about body image and being picked and bullied on for body image. And we talked a little bit about them not wanting to change clothes. So they said in general, those spaces right now, they feel uncomfortable in those spaces. So then we asked them, well, what should the spaces look like? And so what the students said were they wanted small private stalls. They wanted good locks and lots of privacy. They wanted good adult trusted supervision to monitor student behavior. Those were some of the key ideas that came up. So those were that's kind of what we took them through. Things that students said is about our facilities, and as we designed them, they said they just want to feel safe, and we want the school to help normalize people with all different identities. They also said they thought our locker rooms and restrooms should be a place with privacy and a spot to feel safe on campus. And they said that they definitely felt they could use some improvement. And they think that the designs, they did get to look at some of the prototype designs that we had circulating in the spring of, it's 2021 when we did the focus groups. We started in January, maybe December, and did focus groups last year. And during that time, they got to see some of the prototypes. They gave some input, but they said they thought the designs were good, that they'd work well to help with safety, security, and privacy. They said, be sure to make it, and this kind of goes to Ferdo's talk about the windows, be sure to make it in the way enough so that staff can monitor the locker room, so they like the visibility. And finally, again, they just mentioned again the idea of privacy and supervision, which seemed to be an overriding theme in those student focus groups. So they liked the designs, and they kind of landed on very similar and gave us some input. And we actually even changed some of the designs from the student focus groups.
Thank you, Sean. So we are at an hour, and I'm going to just pause here and thank parents for being with us, and thank our panelists. I do have a couple more questions that I want to get to that are surfacing here as frequently asked questions from our community. And this one I will ask Ferdos, what are the plans for Wilson's existing locker room?
What the existing locker room is going to get some facelift modernization, similar to what we're doing in other Measure A projects. The locker rooms pretty much stay the same. We're gonna have heating, painting, provide ADA accessibility, and that's about it. We are not doing much of a renovation to the existing locker room. But what we are doing for the natatorium area is when we are filling in the existing pool and turn the natatorium area into a practice gym, auxiliary gym area.
Thank you. It's another frequently asked question here. How many PE coaching staff can be accommodated in the office space to supervise?
In the office space, we have space working station for 4 PE coaching staff, and we also have our pool attendant office separately there. And this area, because nobody changes within the area, can be supervised by any of the staff members that are present at the site.
Thank you. Question regarding the wall around the pool. How high will it be, and is it made of brick?
It's made out of CMU walls and CMU bricks, yes, and it is 10 feet high.
Thank you. Question here that has come up a couple of times, and I will ask our executive director of facilities to answer this question. How will this project affect parking for residents, specifically on Park Avenue between 10th and Anaheim?
So I'm assuming this would be during construction.
Correct.
So during construction, and for those of you in the Wilson community and at the school, you know, we're currently working on the HVAC modernization scope of work for the campus. That's a 2-year project, and we're deep into year number 2 right now. What we did out with that particular project was phase in construction and kind of move around our contractor and material laydown area along the way. That's, of course, to minimize disruption as best we can. What I envision here for this pool project is a similar approach, us minimizing disruption to the neighboring community and with respect to parking as best we can. We'll definitely iron out some more specifics once we select a contractor. So once we select an actual contractor, we'll work closely with them to develop a plan that just best suits the community in this particular school site.
Thank you. So we are at just past 7 o'clock here, and we do want to be mindful of our panelists' time as well as our community members' time. So I have a question here on the number of facilities, or specifically the number of stalls and locker rooms. And I wonder, Ferdos, if you could provide that information one more time, how many changing stalls, how many showers, etc.
We have 58 changing stalls, 4 of which are ADA compliant. We have 10 shower stalls, indoor shower stalls, 2 of which are ADA compliant. We have 14 outdoor shower heads for rinsing. We have 9 restroom stalls, 1 of which is ADA compliant. These 9 are all gender multi-stall space. In addition to that, we have 2 single occupants, all gender restroom stall, plus the 2 restrooms that we have provided for the staff members.
Thank you, Ferdos. And thank you to our community for attending tonight. We are going to end here being respectful of everybody's time. I want to extend a special thank you to our colleagues at PBK Architecture for being here with us, as well as to Lisa Ulmer and Sean Abbott. And with that, I just thank you again for attending. We are publishing the slides that we shared in tonight's presentation, as well as a frequently asked questions document that covers the questions, as well as others that we weren't able to get to. That will be published on the district's bonds website at lbschoolbonds.net. And you can pull that up directly from the Hope page tomorrow. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon.